Hey, buddy, watch this.
Hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Hearthstone is the game, and these are the 10 best cards from the League of Explorers adventure. Now, you might be asking yourself, why am I doing a League of Explorers video? That adventure came out forever ago, and it's about to drop off of standard format and move into wild format, so who cares if the cards are good? Well, there are a few reasons for that. First, it's just fun to do top 10 lists and look back at some of the most impactful and influential cards from a given adventure. But also, as this moves into wild format and that becomes its only mode of play, there might be people who are new to the game going through old adventures and seeing which cards are the best, and this could give them some guidance in regards to which cards they should consider crafting or perhaps just adding to their decks at all. Plus, I'm a completionist and I've reviewed every other expansion's best cards, so I have to go for League of Explorers as well. All that said, let's go ahead and jump right into the list. Starting off with the number 10 card, it is the Druid spell Raven Idol. This one's not really so good in and of itself, so much as it's just really strong in the different kinds of decks that have been popular for Druid throughout the League of Explorers era. There are a lot of spell synergies in particular that Druid has been able to take advantage of, and because this is both a very cheap spell itself, but can also cycle into another spell, that just gives it all that more potency for those various spell synergies. Not to mention that this does allow you to pick a spell. Sometimes Druid needs a very specific thing, and this allows them to do that. So instead of being forced to run a mulch in your deck all the time, even though you might not need a mulch against aggressive decks, this gives you the option. Sometimes you can pick the swipe, and sometimes you can pick the mulch. And that increased degree of flexibility, combined with all those spell synergies, made Raven Idol a really nice fit for Druid, and a card that you can kind of just toss into a deck and it'll give you something that you need from time to time, making it a good, easy fit for a wide variety of decks. Moving on to the number 9 spot, it is the Priest spell Entomb. This is really just the ultimate value removal spell for a class that really values removal in the first place in Priest. So not only does this destroy an enemy minion from your opponent's side of the board, but it also essentially silences it in the process, negating things like death rattle effects. So unlike a spell like Shadowward Death, which could kill your opponent's Tyrian Forge Ring and give them the Ashbringer that comes out of Tyrian Forge Ring, this one instead just removes Tyrian Forge Ring from play altogether, so they don't get the Ashbringer, plus it puts it in your deck so you get to play with Tyrian Forge Ring eventually as well, meaning you get tons of late game value out of a card like this, and it fits a control style archetype perfectly, which is exactly what Priest likes to do. On to the number 8 spot, it is Sir Finley Murgleton. This little Murloc is all about flexibility for aggressive style decks. Essentially, a lot of classes have hero powers that don't necessarily lend themselves to a certain kind of playstyle. Things like Aggro Shaman, for instance, don't really need totems. They're looking for things like damage. And Sir Finley Murgleton successfully allowed a deck like Aggro Shaman to get things like the Hunter hero power or the Druid hero power to combo with Doomhammer and suddenly pump out tons of extra damage. This added flexibility also allows you to do things like pick defensively minded hero powers. When you're in a pinch and almost about to die, you can get Armor Up or the Priest Heal to suddenly save your life and extend a game just a little bit longer, buying you the time you need to find lethal on your own. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of control in how this effect works made Sir Finley Murgleton a nice little Swiss Army knife card you could add into a lot of different decks and expect to see some value out of it. And there are even more Murlocs at the number 7 spot. This time it's Anything Can Happen, the 10 mana Paladin spell that really created a brand new deck all on its own. Murloc Paladin, which is still a prominent and powerful meta deck that relies on the late game burst and combo potential that this card provides when you combine it with very specific Murlocs like Bluegill Warrior and Murloc Warleader, enabling really huge burst damage combos that kill your opponent in a single turn or sometimes 2 turns with a second Anything Can Happen. So since this has both created a new deck all by itself and had such a prominent impact on the metagame over the last year or so, Anything Can Happen certainly deserves a spot on this list. For my number 6 card, it is the Rogue Minion Tomb Pillager. When it comes to designing a card for a class, I really can't think of a better example than Tomb Pillager. This one is absolutely perfect for Rogue. It gives them a nice, solid, threatening minion in the mid-game, and the Death Rattle adding a coin to your hand is perfect for the kinds of stuff that Rogue likes to do, both enabling things like the Gadgetzan Auctioneers with extra mana and a spell activation to draw cards, but also just to activate combos, which is a fundamental part of the class as well. So this card has made a huge impact on the class and is frankly synonymous with virtually every kind of rogue deck there is out there. And we've made it to the top 5, starting off with the Warlock minion Dark Peddler. This little 2-mana 2/2 has a very cool battle cry that allows you to discover a 1-cost card, and it's surprising how good that can be when Warlock has some really nice 1-cost cards, particularly cards like Mortal Coil and Soulfire and Power Overwhelming, all which can do very cool and impactful things despite their low cost. So Dark Peddler allows you to dig for those kinds of answers, but also fits really nicely into the kinds of decks Warlock likes to play, specifically Zoo Warlock. So he can give you a minion sometimes, he can give you a spell sometimes, but frankly, you always or almost always find something to like when you play Dark Peddler. Plus, he's just cheap and efficient, cycles your cards a little bit. He's an all-around strong card that may not seem all that exciting at a surface level, but has had a very large impact on his class as a whole. Moving right along to the number 4 spot, it is Elise Starseeker, the 4-mana minion that does a really cool effect, both from a kind of story or lore standpoint, but also just in the way it operates in the game mechanically as well. So of course, Elise's battle cry shuffles a map to the Golden Monkey into your deck. You draw that map eventually, if you have enough card draw and you find it, and when you play that map card, it adds a Golden Monkey to your deck, and then eventually you draw that Golden Monkey, and you get to play your Golden Monkey, and suddenly every card in both your hand and your deck transforms into a shiny new legendary minion. So Elise Starseeker is fantastic for late game oriented decks. She can turn low cost junk cards like, say, Sir Finley Murgleton back there behind her into something like a Ragnaros or a Tyrion Forge Ring. And that's a trade that works really nicely in late game style decks. So Elise Starseeker opens up a ton of options as far as the kinds of classes and even the kinds of cards you can run and control style decks. She's also resulted in some of the most fun games and most amazing moments I've ever seen in Hearthstone. So this is a fun, well-designed, powerful card that will sorely be missed when she rotates out of standard format. Moving on to my number 3 spot, it is the 3-mana legendary minion Bran Bronzebeard. This guy is all about setting up enormous, crazy, ridiculous, absurd plays. And that's what's made him so much fun and so outright powerful. There are so many different kinds of strong battlecry minions in the game that getting off 2 battlecries can just make a game-winning play. There are countless examples. You've all seen Bran Bronzebeard in action, but he's so strong and he fits into so many different kinds of decks that he's been a powerful force in the meta. And even as he rotates out of standard format into wild, I think Bran Bronzebeard won't be going away anytime soon. This card is just too strong, too crazy, too powerful to not see play. Now for my number 2 card, it is Reno Jackson. This guy, of course, spawned an entirely new archetype of deck for Hearthstone. That is, of course, the Reno-style deck, in which you only run a single copy of every card in your list to facilitate the battle cry here on Reno Jackson that is the ultimate defensive heal, the life saver that creates and enables such a cool late game style sort of play. So ultimately, there aren't many cards which have had a bigger influence on Hearthstone than Reno Jackson. He created a brand new kind of deck, shifted the ladder in all kinds of different directions, and has given control style decks essentially a new lease on life since he's been around, which is really fantastic. I personally think Reno Jackson might be the most important or most influential or at least best designed card in League of Explorers, but I can't actually in a good conscience say that he is the best. There's one more that might surprise you. And that one more is actually the 1-mana shaman card, Tunnel Trog. Now, a lot of people are going to be surprised to see this at the top of my list. Even more people are probably going to call me crazy or stupid or dumb. But I actually think that Tunnel Trog has been the most influential, frankly deadly, and absurdly strong and overpowered card in the entire League of Explorers expansion. As anyone who plays Hearthstone right now knows, Shaman is incredibly dominant in the meta, and it has been a major influence for a very long time. Essentially since Tunnel Trog came out and enabled the aggro Shaman style of deck, and has since shifted into more mid-range style Shamans, which are dominant right now. This card has been the fundamental foundation for Shaman's success. Not only because it's at the beginning of the game as a 1-drop, right, but just because it is so oppressively powerful. There are so many different overload effects which are also bound to good cards, so that you get Tunnel Trog out early. Not only can he sometimes just hit your face for 6, 7, 8 damage multiple times because you couldn't kill him, but sometimes he's just a value card that sets up trades, that's hard to deal with, that's annoying in every possible way. And he's often much, much better than a 1-drop should ever be, and sets up a start for Shamans in the early game and gives them such a consistent card that sometimes even plays well in the late game if you're able to buff him up, that he is a destructive force to be reckoned with, and has really single-handedly changed the way Hearthstone looks on a competitive level. So yeah, the shiny legendaries, the Renos, the Elise, the Brands of the world all seem like they should be better cards, just because they're legendaries and they're fancier and they're a little flashier in what they do. I certainly agree with that. But in my humble opinion, Tunnel Trog is actually the best of all those cards, just because it's so consistent and so dangerous and so prominent on the ranked ladder. I bet if you played 10 games of Hearthstone right now, you probably wouldn't see a Reno or an Elise. You might see a Brand here or there, but I bet you'd see 15 or 20 Tunnel Trogs. And I think that tells you everything you need to know about just how good and important and powerful this card has been for Hearthstone. So that is why it takes my #1 spot. It's going to be sad to see these cards rotate out of standard format in the next few months, but you've still got a little while to play with them, so if you haven't had a chance to play with the 10 cards I've listed here, they're awfully good, and you should give them a shot. And even if you're watching this video in the distant future, maybe give some of these cards a shot in wild format as well, because I think they can have a pretty big impact. All that said, I'm really curious what you think the 10 best cards from League of Explorers are, so share your thoughts in a comment. Tell me I'm stupid, tell me I'm crazy, tell me I got it completely right. I don't care. I just want to hear what you guys have to say as well. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, game on.